Okay, let's go ahead and start bringing this lousy header to life with some CSS. We've actually written all the HTML that we're going to need to achieve this header right here. So first things first is we need to get each one of our columns. If you recall, we have our awesome, our menu, our logo, our menu, and then our get started button. They're each in their own individual columns. But as is usual with a div, these are lined up on top of each other, and we know this because each div is inherently going to be a block level element, meaning it stacks one on top of the other. So let's go ahead and start adding some CSS. Now I want to go into brackets, and let's just, for our column 3 class, let's add a background just so we can see our background color rather, so we can see what's going on here. So let's go ahead and do our col3 class. Oops, and make sure that you put a period if it's a class. So col3, and we're going to just start adding some styles here. The first, let's add a background color, and I think black will work for now. Oh no, let's do a background color of red. And this is just so we can see sort of what's going on here. All right, there. So we can see the background of each one of these divs, and we can tell that it's running 100% of the page, right? So if we were to lower this, it's going to always go to 100% of the page. Well, the way we can have these line up horizontally is that we need to change the width. We need to make each width small enough so that they can line up next to each other. So if this top div was, let's say, 30% and this bottom div was 30%, well, then this div would have to be 40% or less to fit next to it, which would equal 100%. So, let's go back into our style.css, and what we're going to do, and keep in mind that this background color is only so we can see what's going on, we are going to add a width to our column 3s. And we're going to give it a width of 33%. And this way, whatever the parent element is, whether it be the entire web page itself or whether it be, let's say, a 90 pixel width div, it's going to take up that 100%, or rather 3 of them are going to take up 100% of that div. So if we have 3 columns and the parent element is only 90 pixels wide, then each one of these is obviously going to stretch to be 30 pixels. So first thing we need to do is we need to give it a width. And obviously this is going to change the width, but they're still one on top of the other. And the way we get these to move up is we have to remove them from the natural flow of HTML. And the way we do that is we use the float method. And what we're going to do is we're going to float these left. So let's go ahead and do that and save. And now if we preview this, there we go. We have each one of these divs taking up 33% of the page. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. We have our 3 sections now evenly divided. Okay, so let's go back into our CSS and let's add a bit more. One, we can go ahead and get rid of this background color red and save that. And I'm going to move this column down. I want to actually change our header itself. So our header tag, and because it's an HTML element, it's just going to have the text here. And let's add some things. First of all, we need to give this a height. If you recall in our example, the height's going to be, and I've pre-measured this is going to be about 80 pixels high. So we want that to be 80 pixels in height. We want the background color to be white. So let's do height 80 pixels, and then let's just give this a background color of white, and you can type in white or you can do F 6 times, and we'll save that. Now we're not going to be able to really tell what's going on, so above this I'm also going to add one more thing, and this is going to be to our body. Let's add another background color. And this is just going to be black, and we're only doing this so we can actually see what we're working on. If it was white on white, we wouldn't be able to tell. So let's refresh that. Oops, something went wrong. Let's go back in here, check out our style real quick. Body, background color. Oh, of course I misspelled black. Okay, there we go. So awesome. So we have our white header here. Now, obviously, the spacing's not right. We need this to come down and to the right, and we need these to be running differently. But for now, things look good. Also, you'll notice that we have this gap here on the left side, the top side, and the right side. This is going to be the browser's natural reaction to our styling. And one thing we can do is we can override this in our body, and let's just give this a margin of 0, and voila. So you'll now notice that with that margin set to 0, it was trying to set an automatic margin. We now have everything bleeding all the way to the very edge of our HTML. Perfect. Now we'll also notice that we want the content here to take up roughly around 80% of this entire header. Currently, and you can't tell, it's taking up from the very left side all the way 100% to the very right side. Now you can't see this because everything starts along the left side, but it is. So there's something we can do about that. Let's go back into our index.html, and if you recall, we have our header, or the content within our column 3 within our header is wrapped by this header container. So let's just grab this, and this is going to be an ID, and we're going to style this as well. And we can do this. Let's do this under our header and above our column 3. And remember, because this is an ID, we need to start with a pound sign, and it's going to be header container, and close that off. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set the width here. And if you recall, I said about 80%. So we're going to make the width 80%. Now that's great. It's going to condense what we have thus far. So if we open up this, you'll notice that everything moved to the right? We now see that, and this blue line's actually denoting the width. It runs to right about here as opposed to all the way to the end, and everything's sort of squished in a little bit. But we still need all of this to be centered. It's all touching the very left edge here. Well, the way we center a div or a specific element in HTML with CSS is that after we've set a width, and we must make sure we set a width, or else it's automatically going to take up 100% and you can't center something that's at 100%. We're going to then provide it with a margin and then auto. And that's going to go ahead and center what we want. Or you could do margin left auto and margin right auto. And essentially what that's doing is it's automatically creating equal margins on the left and right side, and then it's going to center whatever the width is. So let's go ahead and save that. And now you'll notice that this awesome is no longer touching the left side here. It's actually directly centered. Everything here is centered like how we want it. Now it's still a little bit difficult to tell because we need to do some spacing with each one of these columns, but that's a great start. Now let's go ahead and let's see if we can't get this menu here to look a little bit better and a little bit more like this. So that'll be quite easy as well. We're going to go back in, and we need to then create a style for our menu. And if you recall, we actually gave our menu here a class. So we're going to style our class menu. And to do that, we do a period menu. And we want to specifically style the LI, so the list elements within our index.html, so these. And the way we do that is we specify the class, our menu class, and then we're saying every list item within the class of menu we want to style this way. So that'll be the proper syntax for opening up the styling. And the first thing we're going to do is I want to eliminate the bullet points. And we can change that style to something else like a square, but I want to get rid of these altogether. And the way we do that is we select our list style type, and we're just going to set this to none. And that's going to get rid of the bullet points. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure, and there you go, you'll notice the bullet points are gone. We need these to not be running vertically, but we want them to be running horizontally. So we know that this is most likely the issue of a block in HTML. So what we can do is we can set the display to not automatically be block, but to inline. And this is going to make these run horizontally. One other thing, I do want to change the font size and bring it down a little bit. So let's change the font size, and we're going to change this to, let's do 0.85 M. And I'll go over what M is in a little bit, but just do what I'm doing right now. And we're going to change the color as well because I don't want this to be hard black. We're going to change the color and we're going to make it a little bit lighter. Just type what I type, pound. And then we're going to do 8E 3 times. So 80, 80, 80. And we'll save that. So now we ought to see that our, oops, refresh that. There we go. So now we have our menu a little bit better. It is no longer running vertically with those ugly bullet points, but now it is running horizontally and it's a little bit better. We need to obviously fix the spacing, but we'll go ahead and we'll work on that in the next lecture.